presentation.
Okay, hey everyone, welcome to our career fair prep event. We're going to be going in depth about how to prepare for and just put your best foot forward at the career fair. So we're going to be focusing on a few different parts. So we're going to be first focusing on what you can first do before the career fair to be better off, and then also we'll be talking about what you can do to do well during the career fair, and then also next steps. And then after that, some of our e-board members are going to be talking about their personal experience in a career fair in general. And then
Uh,
at the end, we'll
could
be
our
having a Q&A session where you guys can ask any questions you have. Okay, so we're first going to talk about before the career fair. So um, Tracy, our vice president, can talk about how you can get started.
Sure. So the first step to getting started preparing for the career fair is to update your resume. It is part of the registration, and it also lets the company look you up beforehand. So especially on Handshake, I know that some company representatives are already reaching out to students via Handshake. So it's always great to have an updated version up on the platform, and also to actually register for the career fair with Nesby and Shep. The link is provided in this presentation, and you can also access this link once we post the slides on Discord. And the career fair will be from September 25th and 26th, which is this Friday. Next Friday and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And also, you want to update your voicemail and email address. So you want to use a professional email address, such as your RPI email, and an email that talks about your name, such as your first name, last name, plus a domain. And you want to avoid using email address that seems rather informal, such as the example I have here, like I need a job at email.com. And you also want to record professional voicemail message. I know sometimes recruiters will reach out to you via phone calls, and although oftentimes now people will just email you, because you put your phone number on your resume, you should be prepared in case they do send you call you. And so, like an example professional voicemail message can be something simple like, "Hello, you have reached the voicemail of your name. Thank you for calling. Unfortunately, I'm unavailable. Please leave your name, number, and a brief message, and I'll get back to you." You can also, and using the default iPhone voice message is fine, but it's always good to personalize a little bit, and you definitely want to make sure that the prank that you and your friends set up when you first got your phone number in your voicemail message is not there, because that kind of leave a bad impression on you. Keita, can you go to the next slide?
So yeah, a good place to start is to determine what your ideal job is. And even if you can't decide on like one specific job, it still is good to kind of figure out what field or industry you're most interested in. So a good place to start is to just assess what you're personally interested in and also what your limitations are. So there's some good questions you can ask yourself. So for example, what are you hoping to learn? What do you enjoy doing and learning? And are there any areas that you don't enjoy or are not interested in working in? So a good thing to do to help you answer those questions is to just think about like significant experiences that you've had in the past. And that doesn't like necessarily just have to be like an internship or job that you've had. It can also be like even a club that you were involved in at RPI or a class that you took at RPI or even in high school. Like think about all of those in general and just think about which experiences you've had that you were interested in, and then that can like help you decide what your ideal job or field is. And also, if you have a geographic preference and you like to travel, then that definitely is also something that you can factor into your career decisions. And also, another thing that's really important is the environment that you want to work in. So you should ask yourself, do you thrive in a fast-paced environment, or are you better in like something that's not as fast-paced? And do you prefer like a hands-on environment, or do you prefer more of a desk job? That's all really important to think about when you're thinking about what your ideal job or industry is. And also, it's important to remember that very few jobs are perfect. And also, a job that might be perfect for one person can be like terrible for another person. So it really is based on the person, really. So it's important to think about what you value the most, whether it's like the salary or having flexible hours, or just the location and work culture. You want to think about which of those things you value the most, and also which of those you're willing to compromise and be deal breakers so that you can get closer to achieving the things you value. So once you've kind of figured out what job and field you're interested in, it's really important to research the companies that you're interested in. So some good places to do that are on Handshake, and also the Nesby Shep website on the Career Fair website. They have information on all the companies that are going to be there. And also for each company, they have their own specific website, and usually that's a lot more detailed than anything that's on Handshake or website or the Nesby and Shep website. They'll usually have a lot of information about, like for example, their mission statement, like what they do, products they make, like projects they're working on, and also they'll usually have places on their website where they post jobs and internships, so you can look at those also. And another good thing to do is to you can reach out to hires or interns that you know personally at certain companies. LinkedIn is a really good place to do this, but you can also use Handshake or just social circles. And then campus information sessions and CCPD and professional leadership events are really good to like find out more about companies and jobs you're interested in. And a good way to learn more about those is on Handshake. Usually, those events and like information sessions are posted on Handshake. And also, you can look through company news and reviews, like reviews from employees who have worked at those companies. So you can look at that on a number of different websites. So, for example, Google or Glassdoor or Handshake. And it's important to prepare specific questions based on the research that you do because you're basically guaranteed during the career fair, like when you're talking to a recruiter or a company rep, you're basically guaranteed to have them ask you a question, um, to ask you like any range of questions. So the better research you do and the more research you do on a specific company, the better and like more educated questions you'll be able to ask. And that definitely does impress the recruiters, that you took the time to learn about them and learn about what they do and actually research them. And it definitely is going to make a good impression on them. So another thing that's important to do is to prepare your resume. So this is just some stuff that's important to include on it. So your name, your contact information, major, graduation date, and your GPA should all be pretty much at the top. And then also you can have an objective sentence. Um, the purpose of an objective sentence, if you're going to have one, is basically just to express your interest in usually a specific full-time job or co-op or internship, and you can like tailor it based on what position you're applying for. And action words are a really good tool you can use to effectively describe like the experiences you've had. Um, like it might not seem that it's significant, but it really is gonna make a difference. Like instead of saying like I worked on blank, if you can say like I oversaw blank or I spearheaded blank, that's a lot better of a way to get your message across and to just explain the experiences you've had. And also on your resume, you really want to highlight your previous work experiences, campus and community leadership involvement. Um, that's a good way to just let the recruiter know like what you've done and what you've been involved in. And also, another good idea is to, based on the industry or company that you're applying to, is to include experiences and skills that are more specific to that industry. Like if you're applying to like a company like Google or Microsoft, and they're hiring for computer science majors, then it's a really good idea to include experiences that are related to computer sciences, or just to highlight skills you have in terms of programming languages or anything similar. And then also you can include interests or special skills you have, like for example, programming and any research projects you worked on. And some important pointers are that you pretty much always want to limit your resume to one page. Having like a 2 page or 3 page resume really isn't good, because recruiters almost never have time to spend that time looking at your resume. Um, and also, it's really important to proofread your resume and like make sure there aren't any grammar or spelling mistakes. And also be prepared to talk about anything that is on your resume, because the recruiters and company reps that you talk to are going to have the ability to look at your resume beforehand. So they can ask you questions on pretty much anything that's on your resume. So you want to make sure that you actually are ready to talk about whatever's on your resume, so that you aren't caught off guard. And just to recap, we actually had a resume workshop this Sunday, which was 6 days ago. Um, so during that workshop, we had um, uh, we had like one-on-one uh, uh, resume reviewing sessions, where some of our members, our e-board members, would take a look at and critique resumes. So if you weren't able to make it to that, then you can just reach out to any of the people on the screen right now. Um, and you can feel free to ask them any questions you have about your resume, or if you want them to actually review your resume, then they can do that also. And also, we included each person's major next to their name. So if you want some like major specific advice on your resume, then you can ask them also. And then finally, another thing that's really important to prepare is your elevator pitch. So that basically, we'll be having a workshop tomorrow actually, from 5 to around 7 p.m., where we're going to go in depth into elevator pitches and how to deliver a good one. Um, but some important things to know is that it's basically an approximately 30-second pitch that you're going to give to impress employers and basically just convince them that you would be a good fit for their company and their environment. So you want to start off by like introducing yourself, like with your class year and major, what your career interests are. But you definitely want to avoid long details, and have a clear and concise message, because you are only going to be able to have like around 30 seconds for it. And also, it's a good idea to point out items on your resume, like specific experiences or anything else that highlight what you're interested in and like what your abilities are, because it's good to kind of get the recruiter or company rep that you're talking to look back at your resume, because then they'll be refreshed at everything that you're skilled in and every experience you've had. And it's also good to have a concluding sentence to end it off on the right note. And um, the basically overall important thing is to just make sure to be confident and have a positive message, and also make sure to practice a lot. Yeah, like I said, so tomorrow we'll be having an elevator pitch workshop from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where we'll be going in depth about how to better develop and enhance your elevator pitch. And the way it's gonna work is we're gonna start off with a short 20 to 30 minute presentation on the basic components of a good elevator pitch. And then also we'll give you a chance to practice your elevator pitch with representatives of SASE during one-on-one sessions. So definitely that if you want like practice with your elevator pitch or you just want feedback or critique on it, then this is definitely an event that you should attend. And some other things that are important to know is it's a good idea to apply to positions before the career fair because that gets you into the company system, and recruiters will usually ask you to register in the system. So it's good if you've already done that beforehand, and you definitely want to familiarize yourself with the technology and platform that's going to be used in the career fair, which is Brazen. I think the one of the previous slides had a link to how to register for the career fair. So this is just like more information on how to navigate that platform. And it's in terms of being able to talk to the recruiters because there will be an option to have a video chat with the recruiter or company rep that you're talking to. So it's definitely a good idea to opt to do that video chat because the recruiter or company rep will actually have a chance to see you personally and like hear from you. So in order to make sure like that goes well, you definitely should test your microphone and make sure your camera is at a good angle, and definitely make sure your Wi-Fi is good and that you have a good cellular data as backup. And also during the video call, make sure to look at your camera. You look at your camera for eye contact and not your computer screen. If you look at your computer screen, then it can sort of look like you're looking off to the side. And even if you're not actually doing that, just the appearance of that is definitely not, it's just not a good look. So, another important thing is to prepare your professional attire. Even though you're not going to actually be showing your full body, you should still dress and uh, uh, like dress in professional attire, as if you're actually going to dress for the career fair, or if you're going to go for an in-person interview, and make sure to check your background and make sure that it's professional and clean. Okay, so yeah, we just talked about what you should do to prepare for the career fair before it happens. So now we're going to go into what you should do during the career fair in order to make the most of it. So, Tracy, did you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so like Peter mentioned in the previous slide, you want to dress comfortably but professionally. Even though you're at home, that doesn't mean that you can just wear sweaters and sweatpants. It's always nice to dress professionally and leave a great impression on on the recruiters. You also want to conduct yourself professionally at all times, and that means staying conscious of your body language. So, like when you're in person, where sometimes people talk when they're nervous, they wobble around. Something similar can happen if you're sitting at home and you're wobbling on your chair. And if your chair is squeaky, it leaves a sound that can be catched by the microphone. So you want to also be mindful of that. And LinkedIn Learning, I think, have some great resource on how to properly prepare for your video body language. So if you guys want to check those out, those are free on LinkedIn Learning. And also, when texting recruiters, which you will be able to do via an online platform, you want to make sure to use proper grammar and avoid using text lingo, emojis, and any slangs. It's kind of a habit, sort of, when people are texting, but you want to be mindful that who you're texting to is a recruiter and you want to leave a good impression on them. You want to arrive early and visit the highest priority companies unless you are nervous. And in that case, you might want to visit companies that you're so interested in, but perhaps with lower priorities to help you practice your elevator pitch and not get nervous and be. However, there's trade off, obviously, if the more popular companies often have a long waiting line and if you join the career fair at like 4 p.m. and it ends at 5, maybe 1 hour isn't enough time for you to wait and get a slot to talk with the company representative. And another thing to note is that each recruiter discussion is almost like a mini interview. So you want to be ready to put yourself out there and make an impression. And whether that is do an elevator pitch to introduce yourself in the beginning, and you want to show engagement by actively looking at the camera and show your excitement that you genuinely want to work for this company, not just for a summer, but also for in the long run. And so you also want to make sure you hit your priorities. Something special about virtual career fair is that your discussion with the recruiter is timed. Typically, you get about 10 minutes, sometimes an additional 5 minutes, depending on the recruiter. So it is important that you research the company and apply online beforehand, so you don't waste time asking about basic questions that you could have looked up on your own, or registering or putting your name into their system when you could have done that beforehand. Next slide, please. Also, similar to what I mentioned in the last slide and what Kedar mentioned in previous slide, you want to try to ask specific educated questions from your company research. So something could be like, you saw that this company have a special leadership workshop and you're interested in learning more. And you also happen to know that the recruiter was a participant of the leadership workshop. You can ask about their experience and see if it's something that you want to do. You also want to mention if you have ever spoken to this company before. So something like information sessions from previous year's career fair online via professional platform like LinkedIn and Handshake. And just to see if, because I know like sometimes on Handshake and LinkedIn, recruiters reach out to you beforehand. So it's always a good step to make sure that show that you have been paying attention to this company before the career fair. And another thing is you want to interview the company. So like Hidar mentioned, you want to make sure that it's the right fit for you too. You don't want to get stuck working on projects and in a culture that isn't a great fit for you, and it might not make your experience as fulfilling if you went elsewhere. And also, don't forget to ask for a next step, whether that is applying online, getting in touch with HR, preparing for interviews, etc. You don't want to just leave the career fair as if you just had a talk with the recruiter and then nothing happens next. You want to take action, you want to take the initiative and move on to the next step. And finally, be confident and don't be afraid to talk to recruiters. They're humans too, and many years ago, they were also in your same boat. So, and the worst they can say is no. So there's nothing really to lose by talking to the recruiters. Maybe a little bit of time from your day, but yeah. I saw Spencer had a question. What does it mean to interview the company? So kind of like say, like you want to learn about the company culture, what kind of project interns are working on. Is there any special program such as the mentor program or professional development workshop that the company offer for the intern? So these are some of the things you want to keep in mind when you are quote unquote interviewing the company during your conversation with the recruiters. Yep, so after the career fair, what is your next step? You want to get organized, review all the brochures, links, and business cards you collected, and take note of who you met with, what you discussed, and opportunities that were mentioned. This will help you prepare. This will help you follow up to who afterward. So that goes on to the next bullet point, which is to follow the company's application process. You want to complete your company online application and update a resume on Handshake, LinkedIn, or any other platforms, as well as send thank you emails to the people you have met, and reiterate your interest in the company, the position, and ask for any additional questions you have. So these 3 bullet points kind of tie together. I know when you're at the career fair, you are thrown with a lot of information. So something you can do is have like a spreadsheet and you organize all your information and write down the status of your application process. So whether you have submitted your application online, whether you have interview, or whether you are having an interview coming up, or whether you should send a thank you letter or you should follow up with the HR. And some other things that you should do after the career fair is to revisit Handshake for updates and job opportunities. And also look for other opportunities to meet with your ideal companies through virtual events after career fair. Next slide.
Okay, so
So,
now some of our e-board members are going to be talking about their personal experiences at the RPI career fair or at career fairs in general. So if any of you guys wanted to say some words on that, you can go ahead.
I can share my experience from the SASE National Career Fair last October in Pittsburgh. So, kind of like I mentioned previously, I began my preparation by looking up the companies that are attending at the fair and see if any of them offers opportunity that I'm interested in. And after I did my research, I prepped my elevator pitch and came up with examples that I can use to elaborate on some of my claims in my resume and pitch. So, for example, when I was talking with a representative from Fiat Chrysler, I talked about my Lean Greenbelt certification in my elevator pitch, and the company representative actually did ask me to elaborate on it and tested me on the spot by asking me to give examples of what I know and how to apply it in a manufacturing setting that and so because I prepared the night before, I was able to give an example and tied it with the concept I learned through the certification course and also to the position that I'm interested in, which is an industrial engineering internship. And as a result, I was able to get a recommendation from this plant manager. And now this doesn't mean I just get like an offer right away, but the recommendation got me to the HR, which offered me an interview opportunity. And I heard back from them a few weeks later, interview with the HR, and as always, follow up with a thank you letter and asking for a next step. And I think after like waited like a few more weeks, and I got my offer. So like the gist is that the career fair isn't going to get you a job right away. It's more of a way for you to network with recruiters and company representatives so that you can push your application to HR and get it processed faster. You will still have to go through rounds of interviews and weeks of waiting, but in the end, it's still a great opportunity to get connected with recruiters and company representative for companies that you're interested in working for in the future. So that's my experience. Does anyone else want to share?
Yeah, I can say something. So, yeah, I think Tracy had a really good point about like the example she explained was just a really good example of like how important it is to basically do research on a company and like basically before you go into talking to a recruiter or a company rep to make sure you know a good amount about both the company and what they do and also your own experiences and what you put on your resume. So another example I can say is that a lot of biotech companies right now are working on some sort of vaccine or treatment for COVID-19. So if you're a BME major or a chemical engineering major or anything similar, then there's a very good chance that the companies that are hiring for your majors are working on a treatment or vaccine for COVID-19. So if you can actually do research on what specifically they're making in terms of that, and the more research and the more you know about that, then you'll be able to leverage that knowledge when you're talking to that recruiter and when you ask, and even when you ask them questions in the end. And the more specific you are with your questions, and the better you can kind of mention that in your conversation with the recruiter or company rep, then that definitely will impress the recruiter a lot, and it'll like leave a good impression on them that you actually took the time to like learn about what they do, and especially something that's current, like a treatment that they're working on for COVID-19.
There's a question in the chat. So I can speak about that actually. It's a little bit tricky if a company application requires you to put a number in there for GPA. Um, I would say that if you can't get past the application without putting a number in there, I would suggest putting 4.0. Um, just because anything else is like inaccurate, even though 4.0 is also inaccurate, but you don't want to put 0.0 either. So this is kind of tricky, especially if they don't let you get through the application without a number that you put in there for GPA. So that's just my advice. I'll put a 4.0 in there.
Okay, so with that, we're going to be moving on to the Q&A session. So you guys can feel free to ask any questions you have now, and we'll be happy to answer them. And if you don't have any questions, then this is basically the end of the main event, so you're free to leave. So thanks a lot for coming. We hope you enjoyed the event.
So I
Wow.
saw a question. It says, "How long do you guys think it is a good amount of time until sending the thank you letter?" I would say within 24 hours after you talk with the person. And it doesn't have to be a very long email. You could just say something like, "Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I am," and then reiterate your interest in the position or with the topics you guys talked about, and ask for a next step. Ask about a next step.
And then one other thing I wanted to add in terms of like following up is sending like a thank you email is really good, but another really valuable thing that you might want to consider is actually reaching out to them and like sending them a connection request on LinkedIn. Because if you just send them an email, like most people, like especially if they're like higher up on a company, they'll usually get maybe like at least maybe even like up to 100 emails a day or maybe even more. So if you just send them one thank you email, then that's most likely going to like quickly get back in their email inbox. But if you send them a connection request on LinkedIn, that's like always going to be there, and it's always going to show up on their LinkedIn profile until they actually read your message and choose whether or not to accept your request. So, in addition to sending a thank you email, reaching out to them via LinkedIn is also a pretty good idea.
Another question I see is, for sophomore with Arch on the way, is it even worth it to ask for future opportunities? I think you can still get out of Arch if you secure a opportunity for the summer. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that correct?
Yes, so because I'm in the exact same position, Anna, if you are able to, the official date for Arch, getting out of Arch is beginning November. Correct if I'm wrong again, but in terms of future opportunities, yes, especially if it's a company that you would like to work for and you know that there are certain positions or there's just the style of the company is just fit for you. Future opportunities and connections to those future opportunities is the way to go, right? Because just applying for it is just one thing, but actually knowing people and having references that could get you there is the big kicker, right? What differentiates you from other applicants. Does that answer your question?
Also for sophomores who are having Arch coming up, um, people always like wonder like should I say my availability is in the summer or should I say my availability is my away semester? People always ask that question. I think when you apply for positions, always say that you're available in both. Say you're good for the summer and you're good for your whatever your away semester is. Um, because let's say you go through the process, you get in, you get an offer letter. It, just because you got an offer letter doesn't mean you have to go there like guaranteed. You can get an offer letter and you can look at the things you have on your hand. Should I go to school for summer art or should I go to this work and for internship? So you can still turn down an offer letter even after you get accepted. So I'll say just do what you gotta do so you have the option at the end of the day. So you're not like stuck with one option. If that makes any sense.
So to answer Justin's question, nationals is actually going to be, it's technically starting on October 3rd, but It's going to be broken up into different weekends, and there's going to be different times for like different events. So October 3rd is going to be something called a SASE hack, which is basically a hackathon. And October 9th and 10th um, is going to be when the panels and workshops are for SACE Nationals that usually happen every year. And then October 17th is going to be the STEM Career Fair. So that's basically the main like big career fair that happens every year for nationals. So, and then after that, from the 28th to the 30th, there's going to be something called a professional track, which is basically more events to help you improve your professional leadership skills. So, and if you're interested in registering for nationals, I believe we put a link to the form that you can fill out to sign up for nationals in our Discord server under GBM meetings info. So, and another thing that I think we've said before is if we get 30 people to sign up for nationals, then the ticket price will drop from I think $12.50 to $10. The career fair is gonna still stay at $5 if you get the ticket for the main event. So if you're interested in signing up for nationals, then you can fill out the form that we put in the Discord.
Are there any more questions? If not, thank you everyone for coming to our career fair prep. You can shoot us the email or drop a question down at Discord if you guys still have any questions. And yeah. Thank you for coming.